while I get someone to moderate, to do all the switching and push all the buttons, and things go so much easier and so much better. But today I don't have that. And so we are going to do without it. And I am much easier and so much better. But today I don't have that. And you have to turn off the echo chamber. And let me go ahead and get started with our housekeeping stuff. So let me say this is the marker that allows us to do the editing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of actually a special call. This is somewhere between a workshop and a gathering. For those of you who have participated in the Catalyst meditations over the past year, and believe me, I am still in shock that we've been doing this for a year, um, is a pleasant shock, I should say. Um, we've been talking about the format for the Catalyst meditation was kind of set up when I thought that this was going to be an experiment of 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month. And now that we're in the 11th, going on the 12th month, it's time for us to take a look back and see what we've done, what this thing has been all about. And it's time for us to take a look forward and see what is ahead of us. And there's an awful lot that's ahead of us. I want to do this. I want to say that as I am doing this, all of us, our planet is in one of the most important transformational moments in our human history. We're in it right now. Now, as you know, I've been saying it's coming, it's coming. And I've been doing that for about 3 or 4 decades. It's really coming. And then for the past couple of years, it's almost here, it's almost here. And it's like, hey, okay, take a deep breath. It's here. Now, those of us who can feel energy, and if you can feel energy, you know what I'm talking about. For those of us who can feel energy, you can feel the change in the times. For those of us who can't, but can pay attention to the ones who can, we'll get some other signals as it's going along. And for those of us who are oblivious to the processes, this is going to be either a really rough time or an impossible time. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to sound like an alarmist, like, oh my God, this, what did the children's story, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. It's like, no, I'm not running around saying the sky is falling. I'm just not running around. The sky is falling. And for those of us who are have been paying attention to the signs, this is nothing new. For those of us who have not been paying any attention at all, it will look like the end of the world as we know it, and it may be. But for those of us who have been riding with the current of a new consciousness, we have been ready. I think back at there's a scene in the movie Dr. Zhivago, and if you haven't seen that, And I usually only watch it in the wintertime because of the winter scenes. You got to be cold to watch those scenes. Um, like watching Lawrence of Arabia in the summertime. Um, but when Dr. Zhivago comes back to his house and the latest Soviet has taken over his house and moved 18 families into it, he thinks for a second. He says, "That's okay. I mean, it's like this house was too big anyway, and now we're sharing it, and it's got to roll with the punches." And so, what what Commonway and what we have been working on is how do we become flexible? How do we become adaptable? How do we become the people that have grown into a new reality? Not just talk about it, not just write books about it, but how do we actually live in this new reality? Um, so some a year or so ago, um, I and I'm looking at the roots of the Catalyst meditation, which go back maybe 6 or 7 years or so, and I'll talk about that in about 10 or 15 minutes. I guess I should talk about the process here. I'm going to go for about 10, 15 minutes or so, and then I'm going to ask for questions or comments or thoughts. You are also free to write stuff in the chat box, but I'm not wearing my glasses right now, so I'm not going to see what you're writing in the chat box. I guess I could put my glasses on, but that's going to be another issue there. Um, and then I'm going to talk some more, and then we will talk some more, and to focus that, I am going to uh, do a spotlight here, and I'll pull myself out of the spotlight when it's time for us to do some talking together. So about a year or so ago, started looking at the issue of um, what is it that how do we actually change the our consciousness? What are the processes that we use to change consciousness? Um, and what does change consciousness actually mean? uh, if you have followed my work, you know that by consciousness, I am not talking about the typical breaker Western way of looking at consciousness, which is that only human beings can be conscious, and consciousness is something that happens inside your head, inside the bone of your skull. There's a big blob of meat, and that meat has electrons in it, and the electrons create consciousness. Um, that is that's a way of looking at the world, but from my point of view, it's as silly as asking how many angels dance on the head of a pin. Um, our the our way of looking at it is the ancient way of looking at it, the first civilization way of looking at it. And if we have time, I'm going to talk a little bit about first civilizations. Um, and that is that every atom of the universe is conscious. It's all conscious. Everything that we know, and then a whole lot of stuff we don't know, is conscious. And that consciousness, and it's not just human consciousness. Everything that exists has a degree of consciousness. Um, there are beings that have a tiny little drop of consciousness, like an atom, protoplasm, etc. And then there are beings like us who have an awful lot of consciousness. And then there are beings like our cetacean brothers and sisters who have a whole lot more consciousness than we have. Okay. And then, if you follow the work of Rupert Sheldrake, who asked the question, is the sun conscious? Ask the question, is the earth herself, what we're sitting on right now, is this ball of rock with water on the outside and a ball of lava in the middle, is this conscious? Now, the answer that the keepers give, the people who are our elders and ancestors, is yes, the whole thing is conscious. Somewhere around 10,000 years ago, some of us said, no, this is not conscious. It's all just inert dirt. And we can do anything we want to do with this. And nothing will happen. Well, they've been acting on for 10,000 years, have been acting as though they can do anything they want to do. And right now, in the 21st century, we are reaping all of the consequences of that. If you believe that the entire earth was conscious, until you believe that all of reality is conscious, then why in the world would you invent toxicity? Why would you act in a toxic way? Those of you who know me, and I think almost everybody on the call knows me at some level. Um, I'm from Camden, New Jersey, worst city in America. Um, and but you don't know that we were downwind of Philadelphia, and especially the chemical factories along the Delaware River, and the chemical companies like DuPont would make whatever they were making and put the waste products, if it was liquid, put it in the river. If it was gaseous, put it in the air, and we got it. And we had, and probably still have, people who are from Camden, have the now have the second highest degree of cancer in the entire country. First is what they call Cancer Alley in Louisiana, and Camden came in number two. Now, this is this was a this was brought home to me when I was talking to my eldest daughter, who at the time was like 7 or 8 or so. And I was telling her that a family friend had died of cancer. And she gave no reaction, just like, she didn't say yes, no, good, bad, or anything, just kind of kept playing. And I said, did you hear what I said? I said that, so and so died of cancer. And she turned and looked at me and she said, everybody dies of cancer. And that blew me away. Until that moment, I hadn't made the connections. I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen from the perspective, and this is the perspective of young eyes, the perspective of a young child, where the entire world dies of cancer and all she was doing was waiting for her turn. Okay. And and I realized that we have to do something about that. But part of the doing something about that is not pointing the finger at DuPont. It's looking at how do all of us benefit from a cancerous society? How do we ask for that cancer? How do we ask? We could have at any point in time, we could have said, you're not allowed to put anything in the river that you won't drink. If you can't make it without creating toxic chemicals, then don't make it. You're not allowed to make it. Anybody could have said that, and we don't. As of right now, 2025, July, we still haven't said that. So what we have to do is change the nature of who's in power so that we can start saying that. Now, the way that we are doing that, the first step of doing that, is start working with people who are serious about their own internal transformation, their own internal spiritual development, their own decision to become the leader that we need in our society. We can keep asking and begging the existing leadership to change. Someone wiser than me said, don't try to get a pig to sing. He said it doesn't do any good and it really annoys the pig. We have to stop asking leadership to do things that we know for a fact it's not going to do. And so what do we do and how do we do that? So get to the catalyst meditation. If we are to become one in our consciousness, so if I am to link my consciousness, almost said that wrong. I almost said if I'm going to link my consciousness with all other beings, it's already linked. The links are already there. We've just been ignoring them for about 10,000 years. Okay. So if I'm going to connect my consciousness with all other beings, first, all other human beings, second, all other living beings on this planet, then I've got to open myself up for that. So to go through our process, although I think there's only like one or two names that I don't recognize on our list as having participated in the Catalyst meditations, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway. Okay. The first thing we do in our Catalyst meditation, I'm going to walk you through this, and then I'm going to pause to get to see if there are questions, comments, thoughts, etc. So, welcome to folks who are here. Set our intentions. I'm sorry, center ourselves. We spent a few minutes doing that and set our intentions. And those intentions are fairly specific that we intend to act. That we're not here to force other people to act. That the holonic consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Everything is alive. It really, really is. And it's time for us to start acting like it. And as the keepers, the people who are our ancestors, the people that we so erroneously call indigenous people, um, as they have been saying to us for the longest time, we have to reconnect with our mother. Our mother, we're living on our mother. Our mother wants to feed us. Our mother wants to love us. And all we do is treat her like an object. Uh, if you have read Creating a World That Works for All, you know that the Commonway definition of violence is treating a living being like an object. If you think about how we interact with our world and each other, we treat each other as objects. We treat ourselves as objects. Listen to how somebody talks about their own bodies. Listen how they talk about their mind. They treat these as things that they can put on a shelf or wear like a suit of clothes. And that ain't it. Okay, so after we've acknowledged our intentions, we acknowledge our connection to all beings. And we do that really, I would like to think we do it pretty comprehensively and we do it pretty and not in the typical ways that you do things like that. We acknowledge all beings, but we also acknowledge all meta beings, beings that are larger than an individual, um, an individual being. If you look at a school of fish, and I see these cool things on the internet and say, wow, that's cool. And then 10 minutes later, I said, oh, I should take that and show it to our group. Then I forgot where I saw it. Okay. But this was this school of fish that was swirling in this huge sphere. These were like sardines or something, like really tiny fish, but they were swirling slowly, spinning in a circle. And this really big turtle just kind of comes gliding through the ball, and they all just kind of part around the turtle. And you get the turtle gets to the point where you can't even see it anymore. And then it kind of comes out the other side of the ball, and the ball just kind of keeps spinning. And that's how we interact with each other when things are healthy and whole. And so we actually spend some time getting our energies healthy, harmonious, and balanced. We can live that way with ourselves. Most of us don't live in a state of health and harmony and balance with ourselves. We can do that with our emotions. We can do that with our relations. We can do that in our spiritual focus. And we look at all those things in our catalyst meditation. And then we set some declarations and we say some things out loud that will energize us to create a new reality. And then we go into the actual meditation part, but we're not doing this for me to find inner peace inside my head. Okay, it's not about my head. It's that we are going to be connected and we will find holonic peace with all of us. All of us means all human beings, and all of us means all living beings. All of us means the tens of trillions of beings that are inside your own body. You walked into the room as a colony and you act like there's only one being there. So, one of the things that then we do our formal ending or our inclusivity mantra, and we can unpack that if we want to do that. One of the things that all of you know is that I have no sense of time. Um, and I'm doing the best I can here. That felt like 10 minutes to me. Um, I think I got a busted clock over here. But I'm going to go ahead and remove my spotlight, and I'm going to see if there is anyone who would like to ask a question, um, make a statement, make a very short statement, because we got about 5 hours worth of material here that I'm going to try to scrunch into the next hour and a half. I am not seeing, okay, so the way that people get recognized is um, to put your digital hand up, as Kalia has demonstrated for you. That's her digital hand. Up, and there it is. Um, or if you don't know how to put your digital hand up, to wave your meat hand around, and I will recognize that. Or um, unmute your microphone. And if I'm looking in that direction, I guess I better put my glasses on. Um, um, I'll see you. So go ahead for it. Go ahead, Kalia. What's up with you?
I just wanted to share that one of the people who I brought to meditation, Laura, made a comment afterwards to me that seems worth sharing, which is um, yes, it's important to connect to Mother Earth, but Mother Earth doesn't exist in a vacuum. She exists in relationship to Father, like Father Son, and that's the sun comes and activates the earth. We have night and dark, and then there is actually like a systemic problem of over, like that the feminine and mother archetypes are worn out because they're not nourished enough, right? So there was something off for her about that focus without a balance. So I just wanted to state that.
Um, Number one, thank you for saying that. Number two, um, absolutely true. Okay, I mean this is and I have been after groups to um recognize the balance, both in terms of the ecological balance, spiritual balance, etc. Um, there cannot be a divine feminine without a divine masculine. That's not a possibility. The toxicity that we see in masculinity is mirrored, catalyzed, nurtured, etc., by a toxicity in our divine feminine. I actually I've done a workshop on that some years ago. There may actually be a video of that. And I'm writing myself a note to look for the video. Um, if you put your uh, email, and I've got everybody's email, with the exception of nobody. I've got everybody's email. Um, and yeah, if I'll set if I've done that divine feminine video, I know I've done it. If I have a video of it, I'll get that to everybody. If I don't have a video of it, I will not get it to everybody. Um, so any other questions, comments, thoughts, opinions, etc.? Okay. Let me go back to spotlighting and go into um, the what is the root of that process of the catalyst meditation? And as we think together as what we want to do in our the next iteration of this, we may want to think about going back to these roots. Some years ago, I did a process that we called releasing the shadow, embracing the light. And we did this primarily with Unity Church. We did this primarily at the instigation of one of my most significant co-conspirators, listed up as Kathy here, but Catherine Thomas. And we did this for a number of years. And we had a number of people in about 30 different Unity churches around the country. It was successful, but did not have the longevity that I wanted to see from it. But when it was successful, it was very successful. And what we did was based on a concept of how do we look, why do the shadows that we see in our society continue to persist over decades and decades of work? And this came out of a sense of actually frustration for me, because I've been doing this stuff for a while, okay? I led my first demonstration at 11 or 12 years old. And I thought by the time I turned 20, we would be living in a fundamentally different society. But the powers of the status quo, of the energy of the status quo, the powers that we were dealing with were much, much stronger than I was prepared for. And I realized that we were not addressing the center issues. We could call them the consciousness issues, the spiritual issues, the issues that lie at our core. And so what I wanted us to do was to take core energy and say, let's actually focus in on this. And I divided this into what I call the four shadows. The four, I don't want to think about this as problems. These are mental, emotional, but most importantly, spiritual archetypes that run in our background. In our background, we find it difficult to even look at them, to actually see this stuff. And so to eliminate the shadow and release the shadow and embrace the light. So the shadows are the shadow of violence, the shadow of exclusivist energies that come out as racism, sexism, homophobia, all the different ways that we separate from each other. The shadow of lack, and by lack, um, that looks like poverty. It looks like greed. Poverty and greed are the same thing. It's just the opposite sides of the same coin. And the shadow of hoarding, that because I'm afraid I'm going to hold on to more resources than I want, than I need, and I'm going to hold it away from other people just because I'm afraid. And then the last one is the shadow of despair. And the shadow of despair manifests itself as depression, suicide, drug addictions. You know, drug addictions are simply the attempt at um, managing the pain of living in a painful society, um, of not knowing how to manage the pain. Okay, so the opposite side, opposite of all that, and the Shadow to Light is a 2-hour workshop. I'm giving you the, I think, 5-minute version of that. So shadow to the four lights that we encourage, um, is the antidote to violence is the light of peace and security. And peace and security should be said as one word. If people, in order to have peace, you have to have security. And I don't mean a lock on your door. I mean the security of having enough food in your refrigerator, the security of having um, uh, a decent roof over your head, the security of having um, a sense of belonging in the world, that you actually belong to this planet. You have a role to play in this planet. You um, that when you die, you can look back on a life well lived. And I was thinking about that as I've been thinking about Joanna's passing, um, that um, she lived a powerful life. And I got to, kind of hang out with her a little bit. Actually, if I'm going to try to get this slide up here, if I can push the right buttons. Um, this is something that oops, didn't hit that right. This is something that Joanna and I did up on Bainbridge Island a million years ago. Um, the folks at Bainbridge did a really unique event. She and I had the entire week, and they had people come in from around everywhere. And I took 2 days, um, and she took 2 days. And then the middle day, we did it together. And the cool thing was, this is two different events. So this is the event that we did together. This picture here is the only picture I've been able to find that has Joanna Macy, A.T. Ariaratne, and me in the same picture. Now, I keep saying we've been together a lot. Somebody should have been taking pictures. And this guy standing up is Fran Macy, her husband, her late husband. I guess they're both late now. And I wish whoever was taking the picture had taken a better picture. Um, anyway, so um, okay, I was talking about the four lights, and I only did one of them. So the second light is the light of inclusive community, that we are starving for community. We are really, when you start looking at a lot of the unwellness of the world, is simply because we're not getting stuff that we need to be getting. We're getting too much of the stuff that makes us sick and not enough stuff that makes us well. And being in inclusive community, being in a diverse community, and being in a community that has non-human beings in it. And I don't mean pets. Pets are on a whole different level. I'll talk about that at some other point in time, not today. But to be able to interact with beings and feel their energy is really something. Um, as you know, I used to spend a lot of time at Brighton Bush Hot Springs before it burned. Um, and in the morning, when we would leave the cabins to go to the main lodge to have breakfast, there would be a traffic jam on the path. I mean, like literal traffic jam. And the traffic was deer. Okay, so the deers were going from wherever they sleep and going to the meadows to eat whatever they were eating. And the humans were going this way, and the deers were going the deer were going that way. And the humans would have to stop. And these deer are walking their path, which is at a right angle. And sometimes we have to wait a couple of minutes while the deer kind of clear the path. And the humans are just sitting there smiling at each other like, this is so cool. This is the kind of traffic jam that you should be caught in every day, you know. And, we were waving to the deer and the kids were like trying to touch them. And it was an inclusive community. Those were not pets. And we had to give respect to them, because if you treat them like a pet, um, lots of those they had antlers. I mean, and they were not afraid to use them. Um, okay, so the opposite of the shadow of lack is the notion of abundant enoughness. And again, I can't do a workshop on abundant enoughness right now, but um, this is a completely different way of looking at how breakers look at resources. Um, Abundant enoughness is, um, okay, there's an amount of resources, money and other resources in your life that's enough. And that's a fluctuating amount, but you know how much is enough for you. There's two other amounts in your life, not enough and then too much. Um, in the world of balance, in the world of the values of the keepers and the menders. If you don't know who the menders are, read the book. Um, um, if you have not enough, you make bad decisions. And if you have too much, you also make bad decisions. So this notion of having abundant enoughness, not just getting by, or just kind of we're tweaking things, etc. It's like, no, you can have abundant enoughness You can eat out every day of the week, that if you want to do that. But having too much, making decisions based on, it's not just that I want a yacht. I want the biggest yacht that's ever been created in the world because I've got the money to do it. I'm not just interested in astronomy. I want to create a rocket factory and I want to blast 1,000 people to Mars because I can do it. Um, so we have to stop. So we have to transfer lots and lots of funds. And we get to have fun doing that. And we are not waiting around for a government that is owned by the people that it purports to govern to get around to doing that. We'll find a way to do that on our own. And he smiles when he says that. Um, and the last piece is we need to be shining the light of deep fulfillment that is the antidote to the shadow of despair. When we put all these things together, we put a process together that would get people to look at this. A key element to that process, and I haven't looked at these for in a very long time. Ding dong it. Um, mm, 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 mm. Okay, here we go. Um, the key part of this process was something that worked really, really well until it didn't. And um, was something that worked really well until it didn't. And that was what we call the visual meditation. It worked when we were doing it in the same room. Once we tried to do this over Zoom, it simply stopped working. The energy wasn't there. When we were doing this here in Portland or wherever I would do this, people are talking about having profound transformations in the room. When people were not live in the room, they were saying things like, "What? I don't understand what this is. I don't get it." They were like looking at their watches. They're like, "Let's get through this." I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to share elements of this with you. But I don't want to, I'm not going to, it would take about 15 to 20 minutes to go through all of the slides in the correct timing. Because this would be like a 20-minute meditation, but instead of closing your eyes, you'd have your eyes soft in a dark room. And I would bring images up, and to all of the images, you would say, "May all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy." Some of the images are positive, some of the images are very negative, but all of that is something that you would have passed through your heart. So I'm going to call up some of these images and see how we do this. Mhm. Oh, and I did it wrong. Okay, let's try to do it differently. And if I can't figure this out, um, we will not do it. Okay, so here we go again, but now I'm trying to hit share really quick. Share. Da-da-da-da. Okay, so the images start popping up, and of course they're not popping up because it's trying to um, be difficult. Um, so these are the kinds of images that we would have um, under the shadow of violence. And um, and then
May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy.
and then we go to the next slides, and I'm pushing this process along here. And actually, I'm not pushing the process along. Um, and I'm going to stop doing that because this is the wrong one to try to share. And I'm going, instead of trying to share this as a slide presentation, I'm going to share this as a, just so you can see the slides themselves. Okay, and it won't go away. And let me ask this as a question, in case someone does have a question. Um, um, I'm not seeing any hands going up. I'm not seeing any microphones going hot beside my own. Okay, so a lot of these images are my images that I created, or I'd stole it. I don't steal. I borrowed from the internet. Um, but some of these are images that I encouraged people who are participating in the Catalyst meditation to bring forward. So, and I'll try to tell you when we've got different images up and available here. So let's try one more share here. Okay. Um, so this is somebody who participated in the Catalyst meditations that thought that this was an image of peace, and I agreed. um, um, and when so again, this was with the timing of go deep, go and may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. Um, and then there are people who said that nature was their peace, and that might be Brighton Bush. Um, so, and they were the ones that supplied these images. And then various symbols of peace. um, and um, the Amish barn raising was another image of, I mean, this is really hard work, but people really enjoy doing that. And so, why am I showing you all this past history stuff? One of the things that I think can happen with the catalyst meditation, and I think should happen with the catalyst meditation, is that we supersize it. We make this bigger. We may need to do a bigger event. We may need to move from the morning, where there are people who literally are going to work right after the catalyst meditation, to the evening, and to be able to bring in a different class of images, but to bring in images of how we, when we get to to all beings, to bring in images of murmurations, to bring in images of hives, to bring in images of what do we mean when we talk about the earth as a living being? What do we mean when we say air as a living being? Are there images that we can show each other and ourselves? Um, and as this is a gathering and not a meeting, I'm going to actually call on, no, I'm not going to call on. I'm going to say, ask if Mark Wallstrom is interested in sharing a couple of minutes of what he's doing to in Grand Rapids with regard to this, to introduce some of these concepts, and also to answer the question. I guess I should stop spotlighting myself here. Also to answer the question of Mark, I don't remember if you did the shadow to light work, whether or not this visual meditation would work with your group in Grand Rapids.
Okay, the Grand Rapids group right now is quiet kind of for the summer, just because, a lot of people are having summer schedules and breaks and vacations and things like that. But what we have done, and there's two or three from the Grand Rapids group on here tonight. So if any of you want to add to what I share, please do. We really wanted to make the meditation a living experience, a direct experience, the Catalyst meditation. So there were times when I would read through the Catalyst meditation and pause, multiple pauses, so people could really drop into that particular aspect of the meditation. Like when we talk about, um, colonies of beings, and we're talking about herds and murmurations and things like that. And those who were there and responded said, they were able to kind of get a grasp and a deeper sense of what the holonic field is, just by kind of staying with it a little bit longer and understanding that, oh yeah, in a body of water, we're 30 miles away from Lake Michigan here and surrounded by the Great Lakes. You have a sense, if you just pause long enough to really recognize there's a lot of life in there. And that you can feel connection. You can have an experience of it in some manner or another. Now, in regards to your question about, could you give me that other question
Yeah, well,
that you?
yeah, um, yeah, I was looking at using images, using visual images, and maybe even moving images. It's, I'm hoping that everybody on this call has seen either live or in a picture of a murmuration. But if you haven't, if you really should see one, so
Mhm.
when you get to that part of of the Grand Rapids presentation, if you had just a little video of the looping, swirling, or a school of fish doing the same thing, or all of the possibilities of when we say we're connecting with all beings, including some images of the beings that are inside your guts that are determining the quality of your life that we just ignore.
That's an interesting example because we don't see those usually.
I hope.
But yeah, unless, something comes back out. But
Exactly.
um,
The only time you pay attention to them is when something goes wrong.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of organisms right there leaving my body. But um, no, I think what we really agreed upon in Grand Rapids is having a direct experience is what we're looking for. Because the idea of murmuration is interesting, and even a video or a visual of a murmuration can be, moving or activate some sense of connection with that. But when we gave examples of our own lives, and it went from one of the members playing in a musical band and saying, when we play and we're all kind of in sync and there's a synergy and everything, it feels like a murmuration.
Mhm.
And when we were able to talk about that, this whole idea of a catalyst meditation or holonic connectivity, holonic consciousness became real.
Mhm.
And I personally feel like I want to keep being a catalyst for that to be the primary thing of what we're doing in our gatherings. How can we make this real? How can we share some of the things that we're experiencing that might give others, in the gathering or the group, a sense of how they can also have that experience too.
Yep.
And you know, just going out, like I shared with our daily meditation group, sitting on the ground out in the woods and laying down for a while, things started happening for me that were quite uh, profound as far as feeling the presence of Mother Earth rather than just taking a walk in the woods.
Yeah. Um, I want to ask others um, in this group. Do you have any questions for Mark or for me? Or do you have anything that you would like to know, share, etc.? And Diana, you've got your hand up and you're about to unmute yourself, I bet. I was right.
You're
Uh,
psychic.
or psycho. So what's up?
I had a question and a share. The question is when you were talking about the four lights and you introduced the fourth one as shining the light of the antidote to despair. And so I gather that creating these images is the fourth light or working with these images in the meditation.
No. So every shadow has a visual meditation. And the days where we did the visual meditations could be downers. I mean, like, you're sitting there looking and looking, and you're just broadcasting back, may all beings be well, may all beings be secure, may all beings be happy. But and when we're doing the lights, each light had a visual meditation. And the last one I didn't say, I guess I talked over it, was the light of deep fulfillment.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And the light of deep fulfillment is when, and we as a society, because we translate fulfillment into making money, making more money, we have no way of learning how to be fulfilled. We don't know how to do it. And which is, I mean, that's really, really sad. And you start looking at the ways that people think of fulfilling themselves. Like I was talking about, well, in one of the meditation groups, the daily or the weekly, watching this old guy trying to get out of his brand new Maserati, which is like literally sitting on the ground. He's like literally struggling to get out of this car, but he had a Maserati. Hey, he was tough stuff. So to find what deep fulfillment means for you, um, uh, this is what Thomas Jefferson meant in terms of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But you also said you had another thing to.
Yeah, just to add along the lines of the murmuration or the school of fish, that I think is a really provocative, very provocative image for the way forward. And Cosmos magazine online, which you and others may have heard of, KOSMOS, has a current issue on the topic of the new coherence toward a participatory intelligence is the theme of all the articles. And I just happened to have read one that was fascinating that mentioned murmurations. It's called Attunement as Governance, a New Political Possibility. And it's just a vision of kind of anarchy, which isn't my particular thing, but she takes the concept of anarchy and that it's attuned through resonance and through coherence in the same way that a murmuration is, as a vision of how we reconstellate outside of having hierarchical government. So I just thought I'd mention that.
I guess I should put my hand up now. Yeah, it's got. I'll recognize my own hand. And I jumped. Obviously, I jumped in front of Eric. I think that is exactly what the keepers have been telling us to do. And exactly where we are going. This is the only way we're going to get out of the debacle that we've got, is to start, we're listening wherever you are, in whatever community you're in, practicing moving together. And that's not just dancing together, but selling soap together, doing whatever we need to do to live together and to recognize that this is really serious. I want to make sure I got my best voice on it. To recognize human beings and other beings have been doing this on the earth for millions of years. Millions of years. This is not a new thing. This is getting back to an old thing. And our getting back to this is going to be feeding us in so many different ways. We won't be able to count. Like, why weren't we doing this before? I know I can't find it. I just read today this thing on the internet that claims to be honest, where Katharine Hepburn was talking about something that I'm going to save that because Eric has been waiting patiently. And now he doesn't have to wait patiently anymore. Make sure you take your micro. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, sir. I just want to say that you say consciousness, we are all connected in a much deeper level. And I think we're connected in the heart. The heart has the greatest coherence. And I think there has been multiple studies done where the heart is energetically probably more active than our brains. And on that note, I just, you talk about our breaker mentality and that we're all here on this Zoom call using technological devices. And I want to humble myself because there have been such great advances with engineering and thoughtful presence. And I'm just going to say this, I'm going to be outright straightforward. IEEE is an organization that is trying to make technology better for all of humanity, not just a select few. And I have read some articles that have said that the end of technological certain instruments, computers, or whatever, they are humbly and trying to recycle that as environmentally responsible as possible. And that sticks out in my mind that not everybody thinks about. Oh, go get the newest iPhone. Oh, go get the newest iPad. Oh, go get the newest this, that, the other thing. But when you think about it on a deeper level, what we're doing to our environment by creating all of this technology and what the disposable nature of that technology is devastating our environment for Eve. And you talk about this and you talk about breaker consciousness, and that's exactly why we're here. And IEEE, and I can't say enough about the engineers and how they try to put at the forefront responsible environmental electronic recycling. And that is something that I carry with me because I read these articles and they literally bring me to my knees because the devastating problems that are happening in these third world countries that we do not even think about, or actually, I should not say that we do not think about. A lot of us do think about, but a lot of the corporations and the people that are trying to drive these capitalistic systems, it's unsustainable. It's heartbreaking, and it needs to stop. But I just wanted to. I mean, I don't usually name drop, but IEEE has been a big enforcer of trying to maintain environmentally responsible electronic recycling. So there we go.
And you will tell us what IEEE stands for.
International Electronic Engineering. Yeah,
With another E. Okay.
yeah. I know. It's the enforcement
Yeah.
electronic electrical engineers. That's what it stands for. And it's a nonprofit organization, but it does prioritize trying to help this planet move forward on as healthy and environmentally friendly basis. And that's what I have to say about that. But it is hard because we on this planet right now, and you said that the generation coming up right now does not even realize what an old phone, picking up a phone, dialing a number on an old phone is. And so we're kind of double timing it, trying to educate our younger generation on these um,
Okay, well, yeah, this is I've been saying this for a while, but I'm not going to say it now because Jenna's going to say something, and she may wind up asking the question that she wrote in the chat, but she may wind up saying something different. So we're going to find out what Jenna is going to say right now.
Thank you. There's many things that have bubbled up for me to speak to up until this point. Last weekend, I was invited unexpectedly to join some friends. They had a spare ticket to a concert, a live concert, and so I said yes. And interesting things happened. It's Meriwether Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland, which is a big outdoor performance place, sort of akin to Wolf Trap on the west side of DC, where there's part of it that's undercover and part of it that you have seating on the lawn. And we were part of the seating on the lawn and brought food and so forth. And prior to leaving, the weather had said everything, it looks cloudy, but no rain. But then an hour later, as we were coming into the place, these massive rain clouds were clustering and passing over. And so here on the lawn are thousands of people in a downpour for over an hour. And everybody was just sort of peacefully there. We weren't looping and spinning and moving at that point, but it was sort of a quiet murmuration in its own kind, in that we were all content to be in this downpour, many of us without much preparation. And everybody at some point, we were in a place where there was AstroTurf that we were sitting on. And even though we were on blankets, by the time this hour or longer was over, we were all soaking wet. Our underwear was wet. Everything was wet, right? We were just,
I've been in a concert, but I've been that wet, yeah.
yeah. But everybody was just calm and sitting there, and it was, an event in itself, sort of. It was a moment. And then once the concert started going, once we got past the startup group that was not as musical as the main attraction, everybody was standing up. Now, I think part of it was, finally we don't have to sit, and be wet. But it shifted where, everybody on the lawn and even under the canopy is standing up and moving and singing along and everything. And that in itself was a murmuration of a different resonance, a different energy. And yet it was all the same people. And then, Eric, speaking to your point, and it is something I feel, I'm someone who oftentimes will take a spare bag with me if I go out for a walk and just collect stuff that's been dropped. And I'm really at times amazed at what humans just toss. And or even on a windy day after the recycle truck or the garbage truck goes, and there's things that fell or blew that the guys with the truck couldn't get to or chose not to, and just I'm the only one in my whole neighborhood that goes out and, gathers that sort of thing. But what struck me was after the rain and after the concert and everybody's leaving, I look up on this massive, contoured hillside, and I was stunned by how much garbage had been left by all the people.
Yep.
It just stupefied me. I don't want to use that word. It just stunned me is the right word. And when I think of things like that, when I think of how many humans are run by their egos, when I think of how things have become normalized, for me, that's part of what has to shift. And I'm clueless about how a massive society can shift on those points. I have a very small parcel of what has been family farm in the Midwest. And I've been considering putting some solar panels on part of it. And I found out last week that this land, it's on the county road that, we're in one county and across the road is a different county. And the county that I happen to be in is very judgmental about solar panels on farms, to the point that they've blocked a lot of proposals. And the county has allowed that neighbor opinion should be able to supersede individuals' ability to generate income in that particular way. And yet, most of these people in that area are Monsanto farmers. They think nothing of pouring toxic chemicals on the earth, on the fields, letting it run off into the water, using it as a desiccant before they harvest the soybeans or the corn or whatever, so it dries it out faster so they can get it out of the field faster.
But it it looks
It's just,
yeah, you can't say Roundup doesn't look ugly. Just poison everybody.
but it's become normalized. And I was, I was listening to this zoning person responsible for solar on farms, describing the opinions, the perspective of the farmers who feel that it's wrong to do something other than crops in the field, and yet they think nothing about their toxic approach to farming. And so there's just such a mashup. And this is just, one day in one small place. And, multiply that billions of times all over the earth.
Yep.
There's tremendous amount that I don't want to say that it's impossible, but it's the question of how do we bring that about? And I think part of it is intentional affirmative meditation. Mark, you answered my question right after I posted in the chat. You are doing the meditation. I'm wanting to start a consciousness group of a different kind here, and I'm wondering, may I do that as something to help propagate that? If each of us was doing that more localized, that is one way for it to start to expand. And I'll stop there.
So one of the things that we need to do, okay, so I've been listening, and in our prior sessions, I've heard that people want an evening meditation. And I'm thinking maybe a couple of evenings to have that. people also, and yeah, um, Grand Rapids is kind of our guinea pig out of the chute early, and I've been talking with Mark to support him in doing whatever he's doing in Grand Rapids. Um, I want to come there, okay, and I want to use that as a support the group that's there, but I also want to use that as a draw to bring more people into that and maybe have a couple of different, I mean, there's a group size of around a dozen or so, maybe up to 20, where you can that's when it starts getting like this. And I'm there. I want to support that. And I want to support that happening in other places. I mean, and so wherever you are, is someplace that can be supported with that. I'm about 5 comments behind now. And so let me make these comments, and then we're going to hit our last half hour, unless we go further. I know that almost all of you are in another time zone, so we still have sunshine here. So I want to recognize that some of you don't. Um, so um, the Katharine Hepburn comment. She was saying that when she was a child, she and her parents took she and her siblings to a circus, and there was a family who was in front of them, who were um, wearing clean but not the latest clothes, and they were all really well behaved, 8 kids. And when the father asked how much it came to, how much it cost to get them all in there, the number shocked him, and the parents looked at each other and they didn't have it. And so Katharine Hepburn's father took $20 and dropped it on the ground, and then picked it up and handed it to the guy and says, "You must have dropped this." And the guy was very, very, very thankful. And then Katharine Hepburn and her mother, the mother and father, turned around and left, because that was the money they were going to go to the circus with. And when we can be of service, when we're of service at the core, not like kind of the extra superfluous, oh yeah, I'll just write a check for $50,000 and keep going. When we can do the core elements, that's when we start understanding what deep fulfillment means. Deep fulfillment doesn't mean spending that money on me. That means spending that money in service to life. And maybe that may be spending it on me. It may be spending it on somebody else. But the bottom line is that we can't determine that. One more thing here. I have a video somewhere, and this guy called together 6,000 people, 3,000 Israelis, 3,000 Palestinians, and he had music, a song, and he had the music in 3 languages. and he put all these people in a room. This is a song of love, peace, and happiness. And each group got to sing the same notes, but different words, but not different words. Okay, like they were singing to each other. And it was great. It was just amazingly great. And I was thinking, once all this conflict came up, those people, those 6,000 people are there. They're still there. They just don't know what to do. And so we have to be the ones that help them see what is possible to do. Which gets me to my next point, and that is what we've been doing with regard to, I should say, what's been doing us with regard to the Catalyst meditation. And that is, we have been having experiences out of cause and effect. We know how to deal with, we know how life appears in the realm of cause and effect. I hold my pen up. If I let go of this pen, it's going to drop down. It's not going to hit the roof. When I put my Oregon cup full of peanuts in on the desk, I expect it when I come back to still be on my desk. It's just that with the Catalyst meditation, since we've started doing that, this hasn't been happening. It's been happening a very different way. And it's been happening a different, well, okay, so different way. Things have been disappearing around me, and things have been disappearing around most of the folks that have been doing the meditation, and then they reappear. And it is way outside the realm of, oh, gee, I just forgot I put it there. This is like literally, I guess the most graphic example for me is a sock disappeared from my foot. Now, I disappeared for 3 weeks and then came back and when it came back, came back to the middle of my bedroom floor. Okay. Now, and what I'm getting from that is we now have opened the door to a whole new way of looking at manifestation. This goes back to the way that the keepers said that they did things back in the good old days. They didn't build the pyramids by dragging these blocks down, 5 miles down the road. What if you were going to build a pyramid and you're going to use 20-ton blocks? Why don't you build it in a quarry? If you don't have to move it, So I have a whole video on the the 5 latent powers. So I'm not going to go through them now. But we are awakening the 5 latent powers. I used the analogy of Benjamin Franklin with his kite and his key, coming close to barbecuing himself, turning himself into the former founder, turning himself into dust flying in the wind. Okay. um, but opening the door to everything that's in front of you right now, the screens, the speakers, the lights, the cameras, all of this stuff is possible because Benjamin Franklin put a kite up in the air during the middle of a thunderstorm and happened not to barbecue himself so he could write about it and other people follow his lead. We have the power, and we have exercised the power of metamorphic transformation. I'll just call forward a few examples of that. The collapse of the Berlin Wall. When the Berlin Wall came down, it was because it was time. Erich Honecker, the head of East Germany, was asked by the press how long did he think the Berlin Wall was going to last. And he said, the Berlin Wall will last another 100 years. And at the time he made that statement, it didn't last another 100 hours. It came down so powerfully. The CIA never saw it coming. Never saw that. They thought it was going to last another 100 years. Okay. The second example is the Velvet Revolution in the then Czechoslovakia. The Soviets just kept putting people in prison, people in prison, people in prison, and then poof, we can't do it anymore. We don't have the prisons. We have to leave, and they left. The second largest superpower in the world left Czechoslovakia without a single shot being fired. Okay. I love that scene in the movie Gandhi where they're sitting down doing face-to-face negotiations with Lord Mountbatten. And he says, laughing, he says, you don't seriously expect us to leave the richest colony that we've ever had. We're not going to just walk away from India. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what we expect. And they did. Now, it took some doing, but they did. And the last example I want to give you is the one that I am intimately connected to, and that was the ending of the ceasefire in the Sri Lankan War. I said to Sarvodia had been the war had been going on when I got involved for about 35 years. And no end in sight. The war was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I said to Dr. Ariaratne and their leadership team, if you do things this way, I think that the war will be over in 2 to 5 years. And most of the leaders were, crazy Westerner coming over here trying to tell us, what we know can't happen. But because Dr. Ariaratne said, let's do it, they all said, okay, we'll do it. At the time I said the 2 to 5 year prediction, the war didn't last another 18 months. The war collapsed so fast that I remember Dr. Vinya and my team in the Peace Secretariat saying, is that it? Did we just win? And Vinya said, let's wait 3 weeks and see if this is um gonna last. Um the we knew the war was over when a truckload of Sri Lankan soldiers strayed into the Tamil Tigers' territory. And what they would normally do is either kill all of the soldiers, or if they could capture them, they used them as blood bags. That when the Tamil Tiger soldiers needed a transfusion, just pull the blood out of these guys and drain them to death. Um, Instead, during when the ceasefire went in, they gave the guys directions on how to get back to their base and gave them all Coca-Colas. When I heard about the Coca-Colas, I said, I think we've gone too far. So we can do this. It's not going to be hard because there are so many beings on this planet that want this done, that want us to have a new way of expressing humanity on this planet, to express our humanity as one species. Right now, we act like a whole bunch of different species and we all trying to kill each other. The main product of humanity is war with each other, and then war on nature. We can stop both, and war on ourselves, and we're going to stop all of them. Catherine.
Sharif, do you think our current transformation will last another 100 years?
Oh, no, 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 no. Let me give a good assessment of this, because I keep thinking it's got to be next week. It's got to be next week. It's like, no, it's going to be when we get this together, and we right now are getting this together. I don't want to put a time frame on it. I'm sorry. One of the things that's working with us right now is the Earth, Mother Earth is about to kick butt. Now, what I mean by that is, and I don't mean that to be raising fear, but what I mean by that is when those who are out of alignment with Mother Earth are going to see, from their point of view, it's going to be the world ending. For those of us who see the possibility of us working as one humanity for the purpose of restoring and living within the family of all living beings, we're going to see this as a major upgrade. So whether the world is ending or a new world is beginning is simply a focus, your focus of your point of view. For those who think that getting a new iPhone every year, I've got 3 of them in this desk that I'm on right now. They work. They're just not supported anymore. We need to just stop doing that. And that means that Apple won't be able to be the 3rd largest corporation in the world, and that's a good thing. It's like, no, you don't do this. It's a stupid thing to do. We're not doing that anymore. And then say that with teeth attached to it. We're going this way now. Part of that is, so whether it's going to take, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you my assessment of how long it will take, and I'll do that end of August, beginning of September. I've got to look at the tools that we are putting in place, and I got to look at who we are, how many of us there is, you know. And I don't mean this in terms of like head count, but I do mean this in terms of um how many cities, how many countries. There's some folks in other countries that have been kind of waiting for me to get my act together. Act's been taking a while to get together. It's together. It's getting together now. But yeah, there's folks in Argentina, there's folks in Mexico, there's folks in Sri Lanka, there's folks in lots of other places, South Africa, Egypt, and that's right off the top of my head, that have expressed interest in all of this. And if we have a coherent product, the thing that someone said, I can't find it right now, about are we putting this together so that you can do this with your local group? Yes. It'll take me some time to organize it, but in terms of time, a lot of the tools that have developed over the course of the last 10 years will be really interesting. It took like forever to put these slide presentations that you saw there. You can do them as real images. I'm not talking about any AI crap. We can do this as real images, but we have the ability to do it faster now and better now. And on top of all of this, how do we deal with the energy of the latent powers that are becoming more expressed, more apparent powers? We don't control the media, but maybe we control the super media, in that all of our hearts and minds are connected. We're all connected. And we don't know how those connections manifest. Give you one example that just pops into two examples that just well, I'll stop it too. A whole bunch of them just popped into my mind. One of them is what happened with in the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King in I forget wherever Bull Connor was. And that may have been in Macon, but they were marching down the street on Sunday, everybody dressed in their Sunday finest. And he had the dogs and he had the fire hoses. And we got to a certain point, he ordered the firemen to turn the hoses on and wash them down the street. Next Sunday, they come back. And next Sunday, they wash them down the street again. The third Sunday, they come back. And they came back again and again and again. On the sixth Sunday, Bull Connor said, turn on the hoses. And the firemen refused. They just said, we can't do this anymore. Now, the marchers may have thought they were talking to Bull Connor. He never changed. He never got it. They were talking to the firemen, and the firemen said, I mean, these are human beings. The first couple of times they didn't see them as human beings, but after a while, it's like, yeah, they're human beings, and we can't do this. The same thing was true in terms of, well, true in every instance. That peace overtakes conflict and war, etc. It cuts the legs out from under it. And that was our goal in Sri Lanka. It's like, we're going to take the legs out from under the war. And we were successful. And they got different legs. And so this time we have to go the full route. And that is, we have to become the replacement for toxic governance. We are at toward the end of our official time here, and so I want to double check my note. Oh, one more notes thing. We've been talking about our brains. We've been talking about our hearts, but there's a whole other realm, and that is, I guess you could call it a second brain that is in your gut, that is comprised by beings where you are the minority, where your DNA is the least amount of DNA that's there, that the other beings, the trillions of other beings, and their numbers are there in the trillions, constitute your knowing, and they communicate using the vagus nerve. Breakers see the vagus nerve as coming down from the back of your neck in two columns and go through all of your organs. That's not the way to look at it. The vagus nerve comes up from all of your organs and goes up into the back of your head. 70% of the information that is transferred along your vagus nerve is going up, not coming down from your brain. Your brain is not in charge. It has never been in charge. It's a fallacy. It's the error of breaker thinking to think that it's ever been in charge. What it is people say, I got a gut reaction from that. Where do we think this comes from? It really is your gut and really is reacting, and you better pay attention to it. We can formalize that. We can formalize our consciousnesses together. And that's the purpose of the Catalyst Meditation. That'll be the purpose of Catalyst Meditation supersized. That'll be so we can get that to lots and lots of different folks. My intention is to start this in September. My intention is to work very closely with friend and co-collaborator Ilarion McCurliffe. I just talked with Ilarion yesterday, and he's saying, Mother Nature's getting ready, and you should get ready with her. And think about things of what happens when the electricity goes off. This is something that happens, that we've had an experience of that, what happens when money disappears? what happens when the earth herself becomes unstable? What happens when you've got to cook your own food and actually find food? I'm not talking about the stuff that's in the supermarket. I'm talking about real food. Yeah. Is there ways that we can feed ourselves and feed each other? And can we be the source of all of that so that we're not waiting around for a government that is, I don't even know what the government is focused on. Wait, I don't know, and I don't want to know. We know what we need to be focused on, and we need to find the people who are willing to focus with us. Okay. The last couple of minutes, if you've got any questions on how we're going to do this. So I got the questions too. So we've got a good month to nail some things down, to move some things forward. I just started looking at the visual meditation stuff from the Shadow to Light program and saying, this is really powerful stuff. We need to make it work. I love the idea of each of us having small groups where we are. You should be thinking of a dozen people, and that includes people you don't necessarily know. It includes people you don't necessarily like. This is real. This is called stretching. Okay. This is yeah, you can pull this off. We can pull this off. Okay. I am seeing a sign from some fireflies saying the recording will stop in 2 minutes. That no, we're going to be done in 2 minutes. I thank you so much for coming. Thank you for participating. This has just been good for my heart. I'm looking forward to all of us doing what we need to do. I'm going to have a couple more events in rapid fire succession. We've got the weekly Catalyst meditation tomorrow, and maybe tomorrow, and it may be early next week, that I want to do a tribute to Joanna Macy and get into some of the stories that are around that. And to maybe call another gathering to talk about what happens in September and how we pull that together. I don't know if I mentioned that Ilarian and I are planning on doing events, and so this will all be mushed together in some kind of way. Okay, and I'm really certain on that. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Unless there's another thought there's no other thoughts that are being entertained here. Time to go. All the folks on the east of the Rocky Mountains are saying, yeah, time to go. Okay, thank you, bye, and I look forward to doing this at another point in time. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure, and may all beings be happy. Thank you.